Hi, everybody. I'm Dave.
And I'm John.
And this is Coffee and Capes, a podcast about two of our favorite things, drinking coffee and discussing geek culture.
So true. So very true.
We really like both those things. We like to say we're enthusiasts about them.
We are pretty enthusiastic about both.
We do. We want them to succeed, and we enjoy them both. So we're thrilled you found us on at least one medium. John, can you tell the people all the ways they can find us and connect with us?
Absolutely. As always, if you're watching us and you can see our faces, you found us on YouTube. So hello. And then obviously, if you're listening to us, you found us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, any of the Google podcasts, I believe, as well. Any of the number of different channels that are available. You can find us on Instagram at coffee_N_capes. We're on Facebook. We are on Twitter. We're trying to be a little bit more active on Twitter, but we are there. And then if you have suggestions, thoughts, comments that you want to share, but you don't want to post them as comments in social media, you can email us at supers@coffeeandcapes.com. We will be launching a website soon. We'll give you guys more information about that. The first thing that'll happen on the website, we'll have a landing page up, and we are going to be running a giveaway contest in partnership with some other folks that we really like to bring you a cool little thing that you can win and enjoy. Yeah, I think that covers everywhere you can find us. We are on planet Earth, in case you are somewhere else.
Just to clear that up.
Just to clear that up, we are on planet Earth. Yes.
Thanks for keeping track of all those things, John. You're the man.
Yeah.
So you're taking a sip of coffee right there, I see. What are you drinking today, my friend?
That's a great question, Dave. So today I am drinking Good Dudes, the Samson. Good Dudes is actually, you can see the bag. Yeah. Good Dudes is actually owned by a CrossFit legend. Both Dave and I, for anybody that is out there, both of us do CrossFit. We enjoy doing the fitness things. It tends to make us feel like a superhero, at least for me. I don't know, Dave can tell you that. But this company is founded and owned by Josh Bridges. I believe at one point Rich Froning and Dan Bailey were part of the company, but I think it's just Josh Bridges now and his crew. And the Samson is a dark roast with hints and notes of bright and full body caramelized sugar. So really great coffee, by the way. Great guy too. So check out Josh Bridges on Instagram and then give Good Dudes Coffee a try.
Very cool.
Dave? And I have a coffee bomb in it from Ladybird Provisions from Sarah Nicole.
Thanks, there you go. Nicole. Thank you, Ladybird Provisions. In my professional clergy opinion, Samson, though, actually was not a good guy, but we know that's a story for another day.
That's a story for another day.
Yeah. I am enjoying some Starbucks Christmas roast, Starbucks Reserve Christmas roast, indeed. Given to me by my very good friend sitting right over there. John, thanks, buddy.
You're welcome,
it's very
buddy.
Tasty.
Yes. Yeah, you like it? Is it good?
I do. It is. Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
Nice. All right.
I don't have any descriptions. Like I don't have the like, I mean, the bag doesn't say anything specific about it other than it's one of their reserve roasts, which means it's special to them. And it's special to me because it was a gift from my good friend.
Buddy. Thanks. All right. We started a new segment of the show a couple weeks ago, right? Fan fiction, where we read a comment or a question or an email from one of our tens of listeners and
dozens of listeners.
We have dozens of listeners. Yes. And thanks everybody for listening to us.
Yeah, absolutely. I learned this week that a former student of mine, Dennis, is listening to us in Michigan. So Dennis, if you're listening, hi. And thanks for being part of the family here.
Thanks for being part of the family, dude. So this comment comes from St. Pierre 85 on Instagram. And this was in response to our last episode, Exit the Matrix, where we talked about the Matrix and made our feelings and emotions clear. St. Pierre 85, though, said, I loved every minute of it. While the first half, especially the beginning, was awesome, I will admit the second half felt undercooked. It felt like it was a longer film, or perhaps meant to be two films, and the studio put all their eggs in a single basket rather than letting it breathe. That said, I had low expectations in the first place. Plus, Lana is not who she was when the first three were made. So seeing her voice in this and reaffirmation of the importance of certain elements made me very glad in a lot of ways. I don't know. And this may be blunt, but it was everything I didn't know I needed from a fourth film. Probably my favorite installment behind the first.
Wow. Okay.
Well, some really interesting points there. I really like that, you know, he looked at it in terms of the director's, you know, kind of evolution as an individual and sticking to the things that were important to her and evolving some things that weren't. I think there were some similar sentiments as well, along with what he was saying in terms of, I liked the first half of the movie. The second half was undercooked. That's a very nice way to put it. And I felt very similar. And I felt the second half, though, and as we had talked about, was so undercooked that it took away, and they should have broken it into two movies.
I hadn't thought about that as an idea, that maybe it should have been two movies. I can understand why they wouldn't want to do that. Like, do you dare to get people to come out for two? Although, I mean, that's kind of what Dune did to start, is they did the first half, and we're really going to get the second half eventually. But sweet. Yeah, I appreciate the thoughts. And, you know, we said in the last episode that, hey, let us know where we missed it on our review of Matrix. What are we missing? What if that movie was, I think we said, if that movie was your jam, like, let us know why. What was it about it that we missed that made it good to you? So
yeah,
always appreciate hearing that.
Yeah. And, you know, we talk about it all the time, and we've talked about it, I think, since the beginning. It's like, everybody's going to have a different opinion on something, and we really appreciate, like, well thought out, you know, politely phrased opinions, you know, instead of just, sometimes people get behind keyboards and they're having,
I'm right and you're an idiot.
Right. And you know, I think sometimes that's just people having a rough day and trying to find somewhere to take it out, and it happens. Sure. Right. But really appreciate when people have differing opinions, and we can talk about them in a thoughtful and meaningful way, and appreciate what the other person's point of view was. Like, I may not agree that it was the best film behind the first. I don't know that I fall into that category with St. Pierre 85, but hey, man, like, thanks for bringing it up, and really appreciate your viewpoint on it. I may have to go back and watch some of these again and check it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for engaging. St. Pierre 85.
St. Pierre 85 on Instagram.
Excellent. Appreciate the engagement. Let's keep it up.
We are not here to talk about the Matrix today.
We are not. As you might be able to tell from our, you know, we just call it, you've got a clue, but I think it probably goes beyond a clue. It's just kind of right out, kind of saying what we're doing. We're going to talk some DC today. It seems to me we've focused largely on Marvel. You know, it's also true we've barely touched on Star Wars. We haven't talked about Star Trek at all, I don't think, and we need to correct those things soon. But today we're zeroing in on some DC news.
Yeah, specifically, you know, guys, as we like to see sometimes in social media, something gets leaked about a project or something, you know, within especially the entertainment side of the house, not so much like the comic side, but definitely the movie, TV show, like live entertainment stuff. And recently we got a Dceu leak from someone online, and it sounds as though there is going to be like DCEU is going to hit the reset button once again. And so we're going to talk about the mess that is the DCEU. And we started to chat about it a little bit beforehand, Dave, and then realized we should start recording.
We should probably be recording this. And let me give our usual caveat that we're basing some of this on some things, some internet, I don't know, rumors or reporting that might get into kind of spoilery territory. So if that's not what you like to hear, maybe pause on this one and come back later. Yeah. But I don't mean we don't have like insider access or anything. We're just reacting to stuff that's already on the internet. So, you know, it's not like, as far as I know, we don't have anything to truly spoil. But, you know, if you're a hardcore person that really doesn't want to know anything about a product before it comes out, well, now you've been warned.
Yeah. And this may be, I think this may be one of those. So let's back up. The rumor that came out was that in the Flash movie, right, that we all know is going to be based on the Flashpoint paradox, which essentially is kind of an introduction to the multiverse of DC.
Yeah.
Right. A little bit, like, not so much. It's more Flash goes into the past and does something that, you know, resets kind of the current timeline. And when he comes back and wakes up in the future again, like, things had changed. His mom was still alive, all these things. And, you know, Bruce Wayne isn't Batman, it's Thomas Wayne. You know, the Aquaman and Wonder Woman are at war. Superman was held captive in a cave away from the sun.
Yeah.
So there's all these different things, right? And it's all kind of set in motion by Reverse Flash, right? This story, this is pretty classic. It's an amazing story.
Yeah,
absolutely amazing story. But the rumor that came out is that in this movie, one, it's going to be the last appearance of Ben Affleck. He's also been very vocal about that and saying that, like, playing the Batman was very hard on him. Like, it, you know, I think he alluded to, it was so difficult that it was one of the catalysts that kind of led him to go back to drinking, and he's a recovering alcoholic.
Right.
Also, though, so that, and then we're going to get Michael Keaton, which we all knew Michael Keaton was going to come back as Batman. Yep. But it sounds like they're going to try to use this as a jumping off point to completely rewrite the Justice League. Get rid of everything that Zack Snyder's Justice League universe did and completely and totally rewrite it, which in some cases, like, you're like, okay, cool, but it's a very big rewrite.
Yeah, and it's a little weird to do that, to try to erase that. Well, erase is a bad word, but try to reset. That's a good word. Reset the Snyder Justice League stuff in the midst of a character that comes from the Snyder Justice League.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I don't know.
Well,
let me back up just a moment and say, like, I think part of the larger discussion here is that DC has not done a great job of integrating all of their TV and movie products. Like, they've all been pretty darn separate. I mean, the Arrowverse stuff on TV, the CW stuff, has all been integrated, and, you know, they've had, like, crossovers with all 13 shows or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But just as an indication of how kind of fragmented it is, I literally had a moment last week where it's the acronym, the DCEU, came up, and I literally had to stop and say, wait, what does that mean again? Like, I don't even remember. Like, it's just so right. And I think, you know, I'm as clued into these things as just about not anybody, but you know what? I mean, I pay attention to this stuff.
Right.
And it took me a minute. I think I even had to ask my 16-year-old, what does that mean again? Like, what's the E part? I forget. Like, it just doesn't roll off the tongue. And it feels like yet another example where especially the movie versions of DC are forever playing catch up to Marvel.
Yeah.
And that, you know, we've got the shorthand of the MCU, the Marvel Cinematic Universe, that has really caught on and seems to make sense. But there's something about DCEU that just, it doesn't seem as natural or as organic to me.
Yeah, when we were chatting about this a little bit before, right? For me, I think the word that comes to mind is the lack of continuity.
Yeah.
Right. Marvel,
DC doesn't have a Kevin Feige.
No, they don't. They tried with Jeff Johns. They tried to bring Jeff Johns over, who, if you follow DC comic books at all, the guy's a legend.
Yeah.
Right. Jeff Johns was involved in epic Green Lantern runs and a whole series of others. I think he's best known for, though, like the Blackest Night run, which is incredible. So they gave him the helm kind of the DC movie world. Now, I don't know that he's still in charge of it. I think they brought in somebody else when Warner Brothers kind of took the helm of this. But Marvel has done everything they could to have a really strong level of continuity. And we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, and that there's a few outliers to this, right? Yeah. So some of the stuff that popped up on like FX or Fox or something like that, where they did Legion, which, if you know, Legion is from the X-Men series, Professor Xavier's son. They did Cloak and Dagger. They did like some kind of like New Mutant-y X-Men like spin-off something. I don't remember what it was called, but clearly those were kind of the one-offs that Marvel's like, yeah, you guys go ahead and do whatever you want with this. Like, we're not using that, right?
Right. Well, there was that New Mutant movie just last year, right?
Right. The New Mutant movie, which they thought, but that was also, so the interesting thing about that was created when, my understanding is when Marvel hadn't and Disney hadn't quite reacquired all the rights to the X-Men and everything.
Yeah.
So that movie was made, and because it had been made, they released it, but with the idea that like, hey, this isn't really canon.
Yeah.
It's not. And we've seen a couple things rebooted, right? We saw the X-Men get rebooted with X-Men First Class and those kinds of things. But by and large, like, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is acknowledged as canon within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, right?
Right. Yeah. Sif shows up in an episode, and they talk about, like, right after the events of Winter Soldier, when, you know, S.H.I.E.L.D. is revealed to have been full of Hydra, like that really affected that show. Like there was definitely some connection there.
Right. And they're even going back now into the Netflix Marvel shows, right, and starting to pull those characters in, right? So
we've talked about multiple times about how excited that makes us.
Yeah. And it's so great. So they've developed like this continuity that is clearly drawn on the wealth of comic history that they have created, right? And they built things very differently, like we were talking about before the show. But the DC side of the house, like, one, the CW universe is amazing. They did a really great job creating something for TV.
Yeah.
Right. And not like Netflix TV, where you have a lot more play and a lot more leeway, or making something for Disney Plus, where you probably have a ton more money.
Yeah.
Right. To be able to do things. They did this on the CW. And we got essentially what's it's called the Arrowverse, as you mentioned, where we had longstanding Green Arrow series with Stephen Amell. We got the Flash with, I still can't remember that kid's name.
Gustin something.
Yeah, Gustin something. Oh man, he's so good though as Barry Allen in the Flash. By the way, I watched a few episodes, but it's one of those like I didn't watch from the very beginning, so now I got to go back. But Supergirl, Smallville,
Grant Gustin. Sorry, I hate not knowing those things. I had to look it
up. But we got Supergirl. We got the Legends of Tomorrow TV series, right? We got we had Smallville before that, which as we were talking before, I really thought when they were going to start remaking like the movies, like Tom Welling deserved his shot on screen. He just was a phenomenal like Clark Kent and Superman and everything, you know, in between. But that aside, DC then went and said, we're going to make new movies. And we're going to they did Man of Steel, and they gave that to Zack Snyder, which was met with like, you know, mixed reviews. Yeah. I like Henry Cavill as Superman and Clark Kent. Zack Snyder's take on it was a little whiny, right? Was kind of the emo Superman.
It's emo Superman, and there's a place for that, I think, to like for Superman to kind of get his crap together to like kind of go through it, the idea of like, oh man, I don't know if I can do this and all that, and and then come out the other side and be the beacon of hope that he's meant to be, that he apparently wears on his symbol on his chest. Like, and it just felt like they never got to that last step, which is the most important part about his character in relation to the whole DC universe.
So, and then they rushed into what, honestly, for me, I had been dying to see for years and years and years, and that's Batman and Superman on screen together.
Yeah,
that's so big. Like I've watched all the cartoons, right? The Batman Superman like Apocalypse and the Batman Superman whatever the animated movies have been, because they've been great.
Yeah,
they've been phenomenal. And so to see that come to life on the big screen was one of those moments you're just like, oh yeah, finally.
Yeah.
But then we got, and this is where the continuity thing comes in again, right? We got an incongruent Superman Batman age timeline.
Right.
We got new Superman, right? Really just kind of starting to come into his own. The world is really acknowledging who he is, like these kinds of things. And then old or
grizzled, cynical
Batman who was just and done really well. And we've talked about this, I think, before when we did the famous franchises, different faces. Like,
I think that's right. Yeah.
If you pull Ben Affleck out of like that role and you put him into the very iconic Frank Miller story of Batman, right? Dark Knight Returns. Yeah. He would have been, man, that would have been so good.
Sure. Well, and that seemed to be the inspiration for his character.
Well, I think Snyder even said that was the inspiration for his character. Snyder is a Frank Miller fan. That's why he did 300, which everybody's really like, we all know, and it was amazing.
And looks very much like the 300 graphic novel on screen.
Yeah.
Which is, it's fine. It just never, and I know we're on record of saying this before. It just didn't, bringing in that version of Batman with this other version of all these Justice League characters that are more or less just starting out, just never made any sense.
And then they rushed to Justice League.
Sure. Yeah.
Right. Like we were talking about before, Marvel set up Avengers with standalone movies. And in those standalone movies, we were introduced to the other Avengers. The only one we weren't introduced to was the Mark Ruffalo version of the Hulk. Right. But we had seen the Hulk on screen before with the Ang Lee version, and then the version that followed that had Edward Norton in the role of Bruce Banner. And so we at least had the Hulk, right, within Marvel. And but we had 2 Iron Man movies. We had a Thor movie. We had a Captain America movie. In the second Iron Man movie, we were introduced to Natasha Romanoff, the Black Widow. In
the Thor movie, we
got introduced to Hawkeye, right? In all those movies, we got introduced to Nick Fury. So there was a significant amount of lead up time and build up to build that universe, so that when you made Avengers, you didn't have to try and like fumble your way through introducing new characters. You were just like, you could introduce a new, they didn't even introduce a new bad guy. Because we had
we met Loki in Thor. Yeah,
we met Loki in Thor. Right. So I mean, they didn't even have to go through that. Like they really did a nice job of setting up something that could be an ensemble piece that didn't have to go in and try and justify like new characters all over the place.
Right. And I think all of that speaks to why Eternals was only so-so.
Yeah, it definitely speaks to it why Eternals was so-so.
Because they did Eternals like DC did Justice League. Like, got to introduce all these people, figure out where they're from, and pull them all together and try to make us care about them.
Right. And that's a tough gig to do, because it's the opposite of, so Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, is a good example of bringing in something, but that was a handful of characters that all came together, right? And in Eternals, it was this massive team that had been thrown together, right? So, Guardians of the Galaxy is kind of like that. It was like Star Wars.
Sure. Well, and it's interesting that Guardians casual fans, even, like I remember when Guardians came out, like I don't really know much about these characters. I haven't read any of these books. And yet they were just, despite that lack of familiarity with those characters, that movie was really well done and very funny and very entertaining.
Yeah.
And
James Gunn did a
really
phenomenal
well.
job.
Yeah, did really well.
Phenomenal job.
And so you'd think with DC, with characters that are well known, from Super Friends to cartoons to Justice League. I mean, we know Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Flash, and Aquaman. And most people have probably experienced some sort of cyborg a little bit somewhere too.
Right.
And yet they just couldn't pull these already well-known characters together in a way that was very good.
Right. Yeah, the original cut of the Justice League, which Joss Whedon was brought in to help finish because of the tragedy that happened to Zack Snyder, right, does not hold up, in my opinion.
No.
I've tried to rewatch it and it doesn't hold up. The 4-hour Zack Snyder version, however, great job. And it was longer, and you could have split that into two 2-hour movies in the theaters, and I think you would have gotten much different review, much different reaction.
Yeah.
But we talked about this too, is that movie was built upon things that, if you look at the history of the comic books, was pulling pieces from like very different like timelines and stories.
Yeah.
Trying to shoehorn it all into something that that was, for a new person, would be confusing. For somebody familiar with the universe, just be like almost infuriating at times, where you're like, wait a minute, guys, just so you know, like the Justice League had been together long before Superman ever died at the hands of Doomsday. There was like a big parade. There was all this like sadness. There were all these things that happened. There were some iconic moments in the death of Superman after after he died.
Yeah.
And we didn't get any of that. None of it. Right. And then Superman comes back to life. Anyway. Yeah.
So what's new? So that sets us up with a, perhaps a DC universe, extended universe, and a Justice League in need of a reset.
For sure. And I agree with you. I think that there is a need to reset the Justice League. However,
so what's the news that we're reacting to today?
The news that we're reacting to is that Batgirl is going to be replacing Batman in the Justice League, as with Michael Keaton's blessing and training, apparently, from I guess there's a Batgirl movie being made, which there's going to be a Robin in the Batgirl movie with Batman, which only muddles this more for me, and I'll explain in a minute. And then there's a new Supergirl that is not the CW version of Supergirl, but completely different, totally new Supergirl that's going to be brought in to apparently replace Superman on the Justice League. But
wait, there's more.
You're still going to have Wonder Woman, Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman on the Justice League. Now you're going to have Shazam, Zach Levi is Shazam. And there is a precedent for Shazam being part of the Justice League.
Sure. Yeah.
You're going to have Shazam. You'll still have Jason Momoa as Aquaman, and you're going to have Ezra Miller as the Flash. For a company that's trying to essentially erase Zack Snyder's work, you're bringing in Zack Snyder's work, and you're trying to do something that, one, I racked my brain about this, guys. Like I last night, and since I read the article, I've been racking my brain about this. I can't think of a version of the Justice League in the comic books that is built like this.
Which, to be fair, they don't have to build it like a comic has been, but they're allowed to do something different, and certainly Marvel has. But it just has that just kind of slapdash kind of, let's take a piece of this from over here and take a piece of that from over there, and we'll put them all together. It feels like a throw the spaghetti against the wall and see what sticks kind of approach.
Well, and we talked about this a little bit before, right? And you brought up a really good point about what you think they're doing in the DC side of things because of a reaction to what is happening on Marvel. Why don't you like bring that up? Because that was a good point.
Another, it could feel like, you know, somebody over at DC is like, oh gosh, look, Marvel, they're gonna, well, they've, you know, Chadwick Boseman died, so, you know, the rumor is that Black Panther's gonna be, Shuri's gonna be Black Panther, so we're gonna have a female Black Panther. We know that Jane Foster in the new Thor movie is gonna at some point have some powers and be Thor, because there was a comic where Thor became, you know, a woman became Thor. And so, you know, is this DC just being like, oh, we can be like Marvel and throw in a bunch of female characters, which I love to have them do a team of female characters. One of my favorite Marvel comics from the last like 5 or 7 years was, I think they called it, oh gosh, what was it? A something, not A Team. That's a different thing.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. It's
not A Squad. It
was an Avengers team that was like She-Hulk and I know exactly what you're talking about.
Invisible Woman, and it was all women. It was a great little book. Not A Force. I don't know. I don't look now.
No, A Force. I think you're right. I think it was called A Force.
Yeah.
Or Avengers Force or something like that.
Yeah. Like an all women team, which is fine. And because, you know, if it's an all men team, nobody notices.
Mm-hmm.
Right. That was why some people like made a fit about the scene in Avengers Endgame when all the women came together. Like, oh, look, they're like going out of their way to put all the women together. Well, if they just put all the men there together, nobody would even notice. So why do you notice when it's all women? Like,
well, and to that point, like we talked about that though, like that scene at the end of, and we've talked about this in the past, that scene at the end of Avengers Endgame was earned.
Yeah.
Like there had been so much history and build up to every single one of those characters. I'm even getting goosebumps now thinking about it, that it was so well done and so well earned that when you saw that grouping of like super powered women, including Pepper, which I think had an extra little pull because of what eventually happened with Tony, right? And Pepper coming into her own as a hero. But I mean, you had Captain Marvel, you had, you know, Gamora, you had like Wanda, all these super strong, like powerful women who suddenly were all on the screen together. That was such a cool moment to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like so cool. And
one of the highlights of the show.
Yeah. And it was 100% earned. And if they did a movie of that group of women as a team, I would 100%.
Yeah, I'd be first in line to go see that.
Yeah, they were super strong. They were well developed characters. They're all super well acted. But this goes to kind of something that we were hinting at just a little bit ago in the conversation, and that is Marvel built that up.
Yeah.
Right? From the ground up, they built that up. DC reacts to Marvel's success by trying to rush things in.
It certainly feels that way. Yeah.
I mean, Justice League is a great example of that, right? We talked about how the Avengers came out and was incredibly successful and did so amazingly well. And we had all these standalone movies before it to help build it up, right? And then they rushed. It was like DC went, hold on a second. Like, all we have to do is make this ensemble movie and it's going to make $1 billion.
Yeah.
Great. Let's just make an ensemble movie and make $1 billion. And you're like, but well, hold on a second, because I don't know. You've just introduced a Flash that it's like, well, okay. And I was not originally an Ezra Miller fan of the Flash. I thought his version in the Snyder cut was much, much better.
Yeah.
I was bummed out we didn't get a Green Lantern, because he was a founding member of the Justice League. Like so there were a bunch of things that we were just like, what happened here? Yeah. Why didn't this happen?
Yeah. So I'd be all for a Batgirl story, but let's give the Batgirl story before we just throw her in there and like, oh, guess what? One of the other things in that article, and we'll have to link to the thing we're referring to from GameRevolution.com, is talking about bringing back in Journey Smollett's Black Canary from the Birds of Prey movie, which I would be thrilled to see that. I thought she was dynamite in that movie.
Yeah, like she was phenomenal. And that's nice because then that's creating a little bit of continuity there, which is awesome. My dog suddenly started sneezing. He's having a sneezing fit in the background in case anybody hears something weird. But that was great. Like Harley Quinn is one of my favorite like characters that ends up being,
that movie was so much fun. Birds of Prey, so much fun.
Birds of Prey was great. The Suicide Squad, the most recent one that we're getting, the Peacemaker spinoff, which premieres tonight, by the way. I'm really excited to see that. It's James Gunn again takes on directing that, but King Shark was my favorite in that movie. Hand. Yes, hand. And maybe they'll do, because it does sound like, so there's a Batgirl movie coming where Michael Keaton's going to be involved and he's going to have a Robin, and I guess he's going to turn, supposedly the leak states that he's going to turn the mantle of Batman and endorse her as the new Batman. To your point, maybe that, if we're going to get that before we get something else, then cool. However, I have an issue if we're going to get introduced to Robin, because Robin in the comics is, essentially like Batman's sidekick until Batman's done being Batman. And we've seen Dick Grayson put on the cowl, and we've seen, Tim Drake try and take it on, like, these different things. At no point in time have we seen Batgirl or Batwoman suddenly try and replace Batman in terms of, his spot on the Justice League, which if they want to do that, that's cool. Like, I'm not saying like you can't do that. Yeah. What I'm saying is this feels like a knee-jerk reaction to something.
Yeah. Yeah. Which feels like more of the same for DC.
Which feels like
more of the same. Shame, because there's such good characters. Iconic. And there's so much good that could be done with them. I don't want this to, I'm afraid like we're starting to sound like, the stereotypical old white man screaming at cloud that things are changing. And I don't want to be that guy.
No clouds.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Cause I'm here for whatever changes they want to make, but just do it well. and again, I guess that's the fear, that as the pattern with DC has been, all of this feels just like panicked and, oh my gosh, let's just change things for the sake of changing them, and let's see what can we do, as opposed to building a story, building a universe, and
be patient.
Yeah.
Right. Be patient. Take your time. Like it feels like a money grab.
Yeah.
Like an attempt to do something as a knee-jerk reaction to Marvel that's not going to be well thought out. And I want to point out there's a precedent for taking their time and doing something amazing. The Infinite Crisis crossover in the CW Arrow universe, really well done. I mean, it takes Arrow, Flash, Supergirl, Superman, and Lois, which wasn't even a show then. We got introduced to a new Superman, which, if you haven't watched that, by the way, on HBO Max or the CW, it's really well done. I love that show. It's so good. And DC, the Legends of Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right. And they crossed all that over. And we even got like from the comic books, Brandon Roth played the older Superman that had the great like black like symbol on his. They pulled these things in and they did it so well.
Was Batgirl part of the new Batgirl, or sorry, Batwoman? Was she part of that show too? I forget.
I believe so. I believe that was when Rose, the
Ruby
one,
Rose was playing.
Ruby Rose left after that.
Yeah.
But
we also, to your point, there's like bringing in literally 7 different shows and making it work.
And they made it work over like multiple shows, and they did such a good job with it. But think about, by that time, Arrow was ending its run.
Yeah.
The Flash is pretty deep into its run.
Right.
Supergirl is probably, I want to say maybe 3 seasons or so in.
Yeah.
We were
midpoint.
Midpoint. We were introduced to the new Superman and Lois Lane, which then spun off. But they weren't like,
Batwoman was new.
and Batwoman was new. We
And
even
yet they
got
made it
some,
work.
yeah, and we got some throwbacks in there too. We got Tom Welling, like was they made a clip, you know, into Tom Welling's aspect of Smallville. Ezra Miller actually shows up in The Flash at some point in time. Was part of that.
Yeah, I gotta go back and watch that. That's that set again.
Yeah, it's I gotta go back and watch it again too, just because it was so good. But so those crossovers, when they did them when they do them in the CW, like work phenomenally well.
Right.
And I
So
feel
do
like
that. DC, make that into
yeah, do that.
Take that
Whoever's in charge of that,
making.
like bring them in,
yeah,
and let them do their magic over here, and quit trying to rush these movies out. And now I'm confused because we had the Joaquin, and I mentioned this before we started recording. We had Joaquin Phoenix as Joker, which it sounds like we're going to get another Joker movie out of that, which would be really cool. He did a great job. Dude's an amazing actor, and you know the kind of reveal curtain that got pulled back at the end of that showed us just how crazy he was.
Yeah.
After you started to have like that little emotional, oh, this poor guy, this is what drove him crazy. No, he's been crazy the whole time. He imagined all these things.
Right. Right.
And we're getting Robert Pattinson's The Batman, which you would hope at some point ties into the Joker, but it feels like if those two things are going to be standalone again.
Yeah. And they're over here in some other continuity, but we're making all these other products and we're not going to mention them. We're not going to bring it all in. It just, again, it feels so disjointed. Man, can we just, DC, you want to hire us to be your Kevin Feige? The two of us together might be able to equal like a third of a Kevin Feige. We got this for you.
Here's what I think if you're going to reset it. And this is just me going, I think I can do it better. As is very common with geek culture enthusiasts. We're like, you guys are doing it wrong. Let me show you how to do it.
Let me show you the right way.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and climb up to the top of my mountain and start hollering from the peak.
Yeah.
But it feels like to me with the Robert Pattinson Batman and the Joaquin Phoenix Joker, those are year one movies. Right? It's essentially what they feel like. They're year one movies. Joker was kind of an origin story, right? My understanding of the Robert Pattinson one is like that literally is like year one Batman. You're getting year one movies. Let's just reset the DC universe to year one.
Yeah.
Like let's just bring it all back in and reset it to year one. Let's get year one Wonder Woman. Let's get year one Green Lantern. Let's do some of this. Or
they kind of already did year one Wonder Woman.
Right. And I was going to say, let's hold off on another Wonder Woman movie. Let's hold off on another, like some of these others. Let's get the year one characters like established in a new Superman and in the Batman and in Green Lantern. And then let's loop them all together. Right. Then you can do your multiverse crossover that like,
sure, which is easy for us to say because it's not our money at stake, but but come on, just do it well and do it right and
take your time, be patient, quit trying to rush this. Like I'm good with Zachary Levi's Shazam being introduced as a member of the Justice League.
That movie was fun.
I'm cool with that. He was good. And the padded suit was a little too padded. But they can fix that. That's just a costume gripe. Like
too much of the like light bulb look in the middle of his chest or whatever.
But he's like Shazam's got a good history as a character. I'm okay with Jason Momoa as Aquaman.
Sure.
As long as in the next Aquaman movie, we don't get that guitar riff that plays every 30 seconds that we got from the first one. Jason Momoa walks into a room, bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
Jason Momoa reaches for a cup of coffee, bow, 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 bow. Like, sorry. This is like my one, like really big gripe about that movie. I was like, God, if I hear that guitar riff one more time, I'm gonna lose my mind. But he's cool. Gal Gadot's a great Wonder Woman. The second Wonder Woman movie was not so great, but the second Iron Man movie wasn't great either.
Correct. Yeah,
but it took nothing away from Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man. I didn't want to see a different Iron Man, and I wanted to see more of Iron Man. I want to see more of Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman.
Same. Yeah. And you could say the same about Thor too.
Yeah, 100%. Right. Usually that sophomore outing is kind of like, I'd like to see Harley Quinn and some of the characters from Suicide Squad, like pulled into, interacting with those guys.
Yeah.
The one thing
left. Is anybody left alive?
I'm pretty sure they're all dead. Like, no, Harley's still alive.
Yeah, Harley's still alive, and
King Shark's still alive,
right? And
Deadshot,
or whatever. Or
no, Idris Elba's character.
Yeah, it wasn't Deadshot, right? It was something else. Deadshot was the Will Smith character in the other one, right?
Yeah, Deadshot was Bloodshot.
Bloodshot? Bloodsport?
No.
I don't know.
I gotta go back and look.
You'd think we would know this.
But I'd also like to see like big screen Green Arrow brought in as well. Right. He plays a pretty big important part of the Justice League. There's a lot that they could do. I mean, we didn't even touch the Titans show.
Oh yeah.
Which finally got to see the evolution of Dick Grayson into Nightwing.
Bloodsport, by the way. Idris Elba's character, Bloodsport.
I didn't think it was Bloodsport because to me that's the Jean-Claude Van Damme movie from the 80s.
Right. To be able to do the splits like that.
Oh man. Never in my life have I ever been able to, and now I'm terrified I will accidentally do it by sliding on the floor in socks.
Yeah, no. Definitely not.
And there's still rumors that we're going to see some other stuff. Like there's supposed to be that Green Lantern core series. I believe it's going to be a series on HBO Max. So,
but once again, everything's muddled. Oh, this one's going to be a show on HBO Max. No, it's going to be a movie. Oh no, this one's going to be a movie. No, now it's going to be a show. Like they just need a Kevin Feige to pull it all together.
And
I don't know who could be that for them. I wonder.
I don't know. I mean, I think we could, like you mentioned,
with our vast experience in the movie business.
I mean, I don't think we can do worse. I'm pretty sure I could. We could mess that up pretty good.
Yeah, for sure.
The other thing too that I do want to say is, there's a lot of people that are upset about the Zack Snyder universe kind of just being shut down and gotten rid of, and there's two reasons that I'm a little like bummed out we aren't going to see where this was going to go. Not that I was a big fan of the Zack Snyder universe. He did okay. Again, I think that bringing in an old Batman and a young new, Justice League and everything else was weird. And a lack of continuity again. But it did feel like he was headed down the path of Injustice. The Injustice storyline.
Right. Yeah.
Right. With the nightmare scenes and everything else. And that to me is one of those stories. Like they did an animated version of it, which that was rushed. And the time constraint on it like made it even more rushed. And they missed so many important like storylines in there. But if you were it felt like Zack Snyder was going to take us in that direction.
Right.
Which would have been phenomenal to see on screen. It's a great storyline. It's very compelling, in my opinion. The artwork wasn't always like the best, but the story was fantastic. And I do, again, I think Henry Cavill, I don't know if I'm pronouncing either way right, but I think that he really deserves an opportunity to be traditional Superman, the Boy Scout.
Yeah.
Not the whiny version, but the rock that, the center point that the entire universe is essentially like built around as this is the ultimate good guy.
Yeah. Like that would be really compelling to see. That would be compelling and rich. I really would like to see it. Yeah,
me too. And I think that's why I like the Superman and Lois show on CW HBO Max.
Okay.
I don't know the actor's name. Maybe you could look it up really quick. But
sure.
He's, they've got the kids in this show. Like they've got two twins, and one of them's developing powers, and it's a cool storyline. They're back in Smallville, which is really fun.
Tyler, and I don't for sure know how to say it. Hoechlin.
Okay. He's really good as as that like small town rooted like Superman who's still exhibits like a certain level of naivete and in some of what he does, and Lois kind of, you know, is the hardened city girl. Like we've all like, that's what we, at least that's what I grew up on. And one of the reasons that I love like the Superman character is he comes across in the comics a lot of times as very naive about how the world really works, but he never is. He's just always hopeful and tries to see the best in man. And that's why he pulls his punches. That's why he does all these things. That's why, you know, like you think about the times that he's gone toe to toe with Lex Luthor, and Lex is like, you know, super brilliant and genius and everything else. And he always accuses Clark and Superman of being super naive and not seeing the world as it is. And he's never shy about like, no, I see the potential of the world, and what it could be, and that's what I'm here for.
And by golly, couldn't we use that particular version of Superman in our world right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's, you know, I think it's what makes Cap such a great character, and why Chris Evans was such a good Captain America, right? Is he had that as well, like that statement in at the end of Winter Soldier, I'm with you till the end of the line, Buck. Like he was like, he believed so much that this could be the way that it, like his friend was redeemable, that there was good in all these people, you know. Except Thanos. He was pretty sure Thanos was a piece of crap, but you know, it's that's what we've been missing, and I still think Henry Cavill could do it.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be fun to see him get a shot. I don't think that's going to happen though.
Yeah, I don't think so either, and that's kind of a bummer. Yeah, we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. That's sort of the state of DC things. What about the rest of you? What do you guys think? What have you liked coming out of DC? What do you think they could do better?
Yeah, I you know, these are our opinions and our opinions only. Like I have some unpopular opinions I know about DC movies, you know, and I think they're probably the most controversial and kind of divisive movies grouping between those and Marvel. The DC ones seem to have very kind of set camps. So I'd love to hear what everybody else's thoughts are. Like, you know, contrary to popular belief, it's okay to disagree and do so in a way that can be respectful and you know, spark possible change. Like I'm open to seeing where I might be wrong in something.
You
know,
it's, we need a lot more of that too. Respectful disagreement.
True. It helps with donuts and coffee and bacon.
Especially bacon.
Bacon. So good.
Coffee can change the world. There we go. How about that?
As we put into a hashtag in our Instagram post, coffee saves lives.
There you go. Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
Well,
all right. Well, friends, let us know what you thought of this episode and react to other content. Let you know what do you think about DC stuff and what's your favorite? What would you do if you were the overseer of all things DCEU? Let us know. We look forward to maybe you too could be part of next time's fan fiction. And wouldn't that be amazing for you?
That'd be great. I don't know if it'd be amazing for them, but it's pretty cool for us.
It's like, for sure cool for us.
It's probably one of my favorite things that we get to do is read those questions, thoughts, and ideas from our listeners. So thanks everybody for listening and being there. It's great.
All right. Till next time, friends. Bye.
Bye, guys.